Hold up in that car wash, gentlemen.
Rob Kibbe.
Don't tell me. You're from outer space.
No, I'm from Iowa. I only work in outer space.
Mike Finnegan.
Go that way, really fast. If something gets in your way, turn.
Two guys talking cars.
I am a semi-professional race car driver and an amateur tattoo artist.
Taking on the most serious topics.
But we will give nothing back to the academic community, as well as provide no public service of any kind. This much I promise you.
And the Dukes of Hazzard. On iTunes, Stitcher, and whatever else it is you listen on. The Kibbe and Finnegan Show.
Kibbe and Finnegan Show, episode number 91. Our first post-SEMA show together. There's a lot of sad stuff going on right now. Stan Lee died. David Pearson died. Silver Fox. Sad about
David
that.
Pearson. Oh,
he and Richard Petty would duke it out. David Pearson was the guy that had a lighter in his car and during the caution laps would light his smoke so that he could smoke while he was beating you. He was that guy. He was the guy that made the Wood Brothers famous, the number 21 car. Big deal. Super awesome driver.
my friend Adam Siddons died too. I'm sad about that.
Sorry to hear that. Is he a local buddy there?
He was a guy I boat raced with, and really, really good guy. And he was out at the Glamis Sand Dunes with some friends, having a good time. And there was a sandrail accident, and he is no longer with us. And I'm bummed about that.
I had a coworker who died last week too. Man, this is the
Jesus, really?
Yeah.
My God.
It was a very. Oh, everybody, welcome to the show. It's not normally this depressing. Available on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Play, all the normal channels.
Oh my God.
No, my coworker Ike. So my last real job, I left at the end of 2010, and after that, I was self-employed and far more entrepreneurial. But my coworker was a guy named Ike, and Ike was my dad's age, and he was just kind of riding out the last few years of his career. He had some kids in law school, and I mean, he just needed to make some money. But when we got hired, we were in a fairly large department, and then after a while, there were layoffs, and people were quitting, and stuff wasn't getting refilled, and it was just the two of us. And we were night and day on most topics of faith and politics and you name it, but we just became very good friends anyway. And he had a muscular degenerative disease. It's not muscular dystrophy. I don't remember what it's called, but basically his muscles wouldn't regrow anymore, and he finally did pass away. I'd sent him a really kind of heartfelt note the day he retired. When he retired during a layoff period, and he ended up being laid off, not retiring. And he did that to protect some other people's jobs, probably mine. And it was just a good guy. I will miss him.
Man, I'm sorry to hear that.
Anyway, let's talk about some happy stuff.
Yeah.
People generally tune in for fun. So are you in your grandmother's dining room right now? Rose print couch? Where are you?
No, I'm sitting upstairs in the kids' playroom, and when we bought this house, there was some leftover furniture, and there are these pair of couches that look like they came out of, Grandma's living room circa 72. Mm-hmm. So they're very comfy, so we just never got rid of them. My kids like to jump off of them.
They do. I have seen that stuff like in a nursery before. Usually wrapped in plastic. Home. Yeah.
They're a lovely shade of puke and floral.
Super. So you are, you're not in your typical location, which is your garage. Is your garage heated?
Well, it is, but the door has been open a whole bunch today, and it's been raining and fairly chilly in Georgia, and it was just too damn cold. I've been wet all day because my friend David Newber and I were working on the ramp truck. And when we brought the ramp truck in, it was soaking wet. So then the entire floor of the garage was soaking wet. And my old ass pair of Vans had holes in the bottom of them. So my feet were wet all day. And at the end of the day, when we were done working and I came up here to do this, I'm like, nah, you know what? I'm not podcasting from the garage tonight. I'm going to put some warm socks on, come up here to Grammy's couch and hang out with my friend Kibbe.
There is nothing worse than cold and wet feet. I was at a football game on Saturday, and I was very cold right now, but I was also humid. And that's the worst kind of cold. I mean, it just cuts you to the bone. A 20-degree day at full humidity is no fun. So for the next game, I am totally going old man, and I'm buying those electric socks that you put batteries in.
Don't they make you sweat, though?
I don't care. I'll take it.
Today I was having flashbacks from early on in my car audio installation days. I worked at a place called The Wiz in New York when I was in college. We had a really nice installation bay. Yeah, it was called The Wiz. But we had a really nice install bay that was heated. It was air conditioned. But during winter, it didn't matter because you'd open that bay door, the cold air would come in, and invariably you'd bring a car or a truck in that was covered in snow, and the snow would instantly melt, and the whole floor of the shop would be covered in half an inch of water. And it didn't matter if you had electric socks on with batteries. It didn't matter if you had Sorel boots. Nothing mattered. Your feet always felt frozen and wet. Those were the worst working conditions of my entire career. They trump anything that's happened on roadkill.
Speaking of silly on roadkill, is this the first theft? The Mazda truck was stolen? Has it been recovered, or is it gone and parted out by now?
The Maserati was stolen. It's not been recovered, and it's not the first theft. My wife's grandfather's toolbox got ripped off.
Oh, no.
Off the back of a roadkill truck early on, probably like the second season of roadkill. So we were filming with the Maserati, once again, trying to make it run 10s. That involved installing a tunnel ram for no good reason other than it looked cool. That involved 2 nitrous plates instead of the one we had before, rebuilding the transaxle, going to a drag strip, and failing. And so we're all done. We've got a busted transaxle again. We've got an engine that's hydraulic with coolant inside of it. Shoots over, truck's on a trailer, headed back to Los Angeles. And on the way there, one of our guys that works with us was tired. So he pulls over in Blythe, California, stops at I think a Hampton Inn, parks the rig, goes to bed, comes out. Somebody's pushed our broken truck off the trailer and taken it somewhere. God knows who where. And so, yeah, our old 74 Mazda RPU with the 455 olds in the bed and the jet boat headers sticking out the back, that thing's gone. It begs a lot of questions, like, why steal that truck? It's a rare truck, but ours is junk. And it's recognizable junk. So what are you really going to do with it? And there's been a lot of theories tossed around. Some of the local law enforcement have indicated that there's a large meth problem in the area and that tweakers are just stealing cars and ATVs and UTVs and just driving around, putting them in friends' backyards. And, you know, that thing could very well still be in Blythe in somebody's backyard. But for now, we don't know where it is. It's gone.
I will admit, my wife came and said, "Hey, did you see about this?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I've seen a million people post it." And she said, "I assume that's just fake for the end of the roadkill show. Is that right?" I said, "No, man, where's your vid?" No, I think it's real. I think somebody really...
We don't fake roadkill, man.
I think somebody really took it. I'm assuming it's gone and you'll probably never see it again.
It was probably already in Mexico. I have 2 theories. It either went straight to Mexico or is in a backyard in Blythe. But the odds of us seeing it again are pretty slim.
The trailer it was on, you had posted, and then I saw a picture of it. It was a nice trailer. Was the trailer secure to the truck?
Yeah. It was a real nice Jim Glow trailer that's easy to tilt and unload a car from. You know, that's one of the selling points. It's real easy to get your car on and off the trailer. So this truck was pretty easy to get on and off the trailer. And was it secured? I don't know. Honestly, I was on an airplane headed back to Georgia. So I don't know all of the circumstances. But yeah, I don't blame anybody. You know, thievery is what it is. If somebody wants your stuff, you can do whatever you want. Secure it 9 ways to Sunday. If they really want it, they're going to get it.
That, unfortunately, is the truth. I remember when I was 7 years old, I got a Schwinn Phantom for my birthday. Blue tires. It was awesome. My first BMX style bike, my only BMX style bike. And then I left it in the garage with the garage door open one summer night, and then somebody stole it. I was just crushed. At 3 or 4 days later, the police called and they had found it because in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, you had to license a bike and it still had the license on it. And I was so excited because we went down to the police station to get it, and all that was there was the frame. It had been stripped, and seeing it manhandled like that made me feel worse than if it had been gone. And my dad would have none of it. So he took it to the Schwinn dealer and said, put all new parts on it, and probably paid 2 or 3 times as much to rebuild the old frame than to just buy a new bike. But I remember from that point forward, I never treated my bike the same. I'd always make sure that it was inside locked up. I even went to the Osco Drug once to buy a candy bar, and I tied it to like the outdoor 25-cent candy machine, just so it was secure to something. My van is sitting outside while I'm in the office here. I locked it. And I live in a safe town, too. It's crazy.
Dude, I had a similar experience. I saved up my paper route and money from mowing lawns for I don't know how long and bought an 88.5 Haro Sport. Love that bike. I maybe had it 3 weeks because I rode to 7-Eleven, went inside, was playing video games. The bike was parked right outside the window next to the game I was playing. And I was all into the game, came outside, gone. Had to walk all the way back home and tell my dad I lost my brand new bike. It sucked. And later, not the only car I've ever had stolen, but the most important to me, my friend Shane had built a 71 Datsun 240Z in high school. And when we were in college, I bought it from him. And I was bagging groceries at a Vaughn's in Diamond Bar, California. And it was my turn to get the carts, went outside, didn't see my car. For half an hour, I walked around in circles just in denial that the car got stolen. I just told myself, you forgot where you parked it. The cops found it not very long after in Compton, totally stripped, just gutted. And some parts put back on it to transport it. Like whoever stole it had a Z car, had a later model Z and put later model wheels on it, their crappy steering wheel, like stole all my good stuff off. And I was so crushed, and you could see fingerprints all over the car. I was just so disgusted that somebody else, same deal, manhandled the car, that I actually sent it back to the junkyard. I didn't even want it. I let my brother take whatever parts he wanted off of it for his Z, and then thing went to the scrapyard, which I regret doing now. But it was
years later, I would come to regret this. It's the violated
part. I totally
part.
regretted it later. But yeah, I just felt violated, and I feel that way about the Maserati because the Maserati. Like, it's a crappy truck, but we've worked so hard on it, and even though, the thing has failed to run 10s every chance it's had. And this last shoot was no different. It sucked, but I just love the thing. Part of it's a mini truck. Part of it is, it's a Mazda, rotary powered truck, even though it doesn't have the rotary anymore. It's kind of rare. It's one of the best looking mini trucks ever made. And some dirtbag has stolen it. So it's a sad day. Let's get past this. Let's talk about happy stuff.
All right. Here's a happy email. Lucas Marr says, "Hey, Rob, my name is Lucas Marr. I've been listening to the Kibbe and Finnegan show for a couple of weeks. I have to say it is my absolute favorite thing ever to listen to. I have never enjoyed listening to podcasts until now. Listening to you ramble on about absolute nothing is amazing. Anytime either of you are in Indiana and need a place to stay, let me know. If you want to go go-karting, I have a few of them and we can go off, I'm sure. You're both an inspiration on many levels. This is the one thing that keeps me smiling through the day, other than my car projects. So I thank you both. If possible, share with Finnegan. He's a mini trucker and he's hard to get a hold of." So.
Wow, thank you. That was cool. You know what? I do want to ask our listening audience one thing here, because this, not to go back to the negative part, but the recent theft has opened my eyes to some things. I'm actually considering not hauling blasphemy around on the ramp truck anymore, the roadkill ramp truck, because it's just
too high profile.
It's just it's an easy truck to steal. The car is very easy to get off of it, so the car is easy to steal. Mm-hmm. I bought that other ramp truck that's enclosed, so I think I may just start hauling it in that. But even still, what the question I have for the audience is, are any of you using GPS tracking systems on your vehicles? Because I'm thinking about putting one in everything I care about. And what are you using, and have you had to use it? What have you installed, and has it come in handy? Has it gotten you a car back that's been stolen? I'd love to know that. So if anybody's got any practical experience, hit us up.
I may have something for you. I don't know that we bought it, but on one of our larger construction projects, we had a few trailers on site, and we were going to put trackers in all of them until we found out the location we were going was just plastered with cameras. Not that cameras are going to stop somebody from stealing, but we did some homework. I may even have something there. But the reason I shared that email with you was to cheer you up, number one, because you're very depressed right now, clearly. And number two, to hear about the Mini Trucker Hall of Fame, which I've heard nothing about. I've only seen a picture of a ring. Can you tell me?
Oh, man. The Mini Trucker Hall of Fame was awesome.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. It was super cool. I got inducted on the Monday before SEMA down on Fremont Street at Hogs and Heifers, outside of Hogs and Heifers, a really fun bar. I had never been to one of these ceremonies. I had no idea what it would be like. And my friend Mike Alexander gave me the wrong time. So I was almost late. The ceremony had already started when I walked up on stage. And it was super cool because I was surrounded by just legendary people in the mini trucking community, and several of which had a direct influence on my life. Ryan Evans was inducted. He actually worked on one of my trucks. He actually painted the dash in my truck. Alex Anderson, who also got inducted, the first assignment I had at Mini Trucking Magazine was to go meet that guy and check out a shop and a car show he was holding. And it was just cool. It was a cool night, and the ring is incredible. I wore it for the next 2 days at SEMA, and I finally had to take it off because I kept getting my hand crushed because people would shake my hand. The ring was on my index finger, and it was just destroying my hand because it's
like
it's a giant ring. It's like a Super Bowl ring. It's like that, but it's giant. Like, it looks like a damn Super Bowl ring. So you don't want to shake hands with anybody that's wearing one because it hurts. So, and I got into the Hall of Fame for no other reason than there were several categories. One of them is journalist. And so I worked at Mini Trucking Magazine. So I was a journalist who wrote about mini trucks for a few years. And that was really, I think, the only qualification for me getting into the Hall of Fame. And, I'm stoked and surprised I did. It was cool.
If you were to build a new mini truck for yourself, what platform would you start with?
Ooh, part of me wants another Toyota Tacoma because I had one I built called Burnt Choco. It was on the cover of Mini Trucking. I love that truck. But now that the Maserati's been stolen, I'd go find another Mazda REPU, and build one of those.
How hot are Japanese?
Rotary-powered.
Yeah, how hot are Japanese collected trucks right now? Because like mid to late 70s Japanese cars are becoming very, very collectible.
They're super collectible because of nostalgia. Like, guys like me, my age, we're not nostalgic for a 57 Chevy. That's not what we cruised in. Nostalgia for me is a 94 Toyota pickup with 15-inch wheels instead of 24s. It just, that's what was around. That's what was cruising when I was a kid. So the 70s and 80s Jap stuff, that stuff's highly collectible. A Mazda RPU, I saw one go for $20,000.
And did it have the rotary engine in it?
It was a basically restored to stock condition Mazda RPU.
I would assume that from a collectability perspective. So there's a shop here called Skunk River Restorations. And I had my General Lee Align there. He scanned the paint there, but he's got a big car collection. It's pretty eclectic. In the mid-70s Japanese stuff, he's got like a called like a Sundowner 280Z, 240Z, 280Z. Is there a 260Z?
Cool. There's a 260Z. I think it started in 74.
It might be that. And I don't know those cars super well, but this car is totally complete. It's been untouched, and it's wearing this like disco 70s theme that was a factory offering. He does have a few trucks in there. And all the trucks to date, I believe, are American. But he's starting to look in more for the Japanese type stuff. For me, I always loved the Tacoma I had. I like Marty's 4x4 and Back to the Future. I think mini trucks are cool. I like the 4x4s. Like the new Tacoma right now, I would take one of those because you can still get a manual transmission and a crew cab, which is pretty handy with kids.
Yeah, I would love to have old stuff, like an old Datsun 510, two-door coupe or a wagon, an old 240Z, old Corollas. I love those. Any old Toyota mini truck is dope.
Dope.
I just love.
Would you like to play a game before we roll to an interview? I have an interview for you with Mark Bradley.
I would love to.
Mark Bradley is he sent us some info before. He's a model maker. He works for Disney or Universal theme parks, but he's an expert at making screen accurate models. And he had sent me some information all about Cooter's Garage. He's the guy that made the Cooter's Garage replica at one of Cooter's, the place where I went to Cooter's last stand, somewhere in Virginia. Luray, Virginia, I think is where it is. Anyway, I did a whole interview with him about the one location on the Dukes of Hazzard that is an interior and exterior set, and that's Cooter's Garage. And it's on Warner Brothers, backlot. But when you look at the courthouse or the Boar's Nest, those are exterior sets from the outside, and then the inside is shot on a soundstage. That's not the case at all with Cooter's Garage. Cooter's Garage is the real thing. It was originally a livery stable, so there's a lot of neat stuff that comes out of this that I think people will really enjoy. So we'll go ahead and run that instead of reviewing a show this week. And then next week, we'll get back to our normal show format. But in the meantime, let's play a little game for you. So I told you Stan Lee died. I assume that you're familiar with lots of the Marvel movies where Stan Lee makes like a cameo. Usually that's the case. I'll be sad that that ends.
Cameo all the time.
So here are 3 cameos, and I want you to guess which movie that this came from. See if you can figure it out. So remember, Spider-Man, Captain America, all of them. Any of them, they're all fair game. Ready?
Okay.
Okay, here is number 1.
You know, I guess one person can make a difference. Enough said.
It's kind of hard to pick out because it's not unique. You can't tell who he's talking to.
Spider-Man?
It is Spider-Man. Do you know which one? It's a Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
I don't.
It is Spider-Man 3.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. It's the end of the Tobey Maguire.
I remember him saying it. I don't remember from where, though. I just knew it was a Spider-Man movie.
Okay. We'll give you partial credit for that. That seems good. Here's the next one. We'll try this one.
Are you Tony Stank?
Yes, this is Tony Stank.
Tony Stank.
Are you Tony Stank?
You got that one?
Iron Man?
Okay, that's the right character, but it's buried inside of another movie. And this is where the Marvel Universe gets confusing.
Okay, so that was a guess on my part because I have not seen most of the Marvel movies. I just assumed it was an Iron Man movie, but it's probably an Avengers movie.
It is Captain America Winter Soldier, which is a really good movie.
Oh.
That one you should check out.
I have not seen that.
Here's the final one.
All right.
Hakuna Matata, bitches.
One more time.
Hakuna Matata, bitches.
No, he didn't say that.
It's like, that doesn't sound like Stan at all.
It's just something I like.
What was that from?
Talladega Nights. It's Sacha Baron Cohen.
Oh.
One of my
Sacha
favorite
Baron
lines.
Cohen, okay.
Here's something I'm working on right now. Actually, I don't know if we did any updates on your car projects. I know you're working on the ramp truck. Last week, I ran another interview that we did here with Renaud Valuze and his son-in-law, Shannon Hudson. We talked about all sorts of things, kind of behind the scenes, Dukes, that we wanted to ask the guy who built them. I did ask him what color is the General Lee, and he couldn't remember. But then I remembered I had talked to him 5 years prior, also at SEMA, just by happenstance. And at that time, he told me the paint code for it. So I had sent myself an email like 5 years ago. And I went and looked that up. And the paint code, it's a DuPont color, but it's the Dulux line. And it was called 43462, Dulux Enamel. In 1976, that's a Corvette color called Orange Flame. In 1975, it's called Flame Red. Also a Corvette color. That Corvette that you had from your neighbor was Flame Red. That's generally orange.
Yeah. I mean, when I saw that car, I was like, dude, that looks like General Lee. That's awesome.
So my car's already orange, but my buddy scanned it, and it's not Flame Red. So Nathan Warren at Warren Customs, who was just going to do some touch-up paint on my car, he's sending me a couple of spray outs of Flame Red on a black sealer base and on a white sealer base. And we're going to just see how close my car is visually. And if it's close, great. But if it's a ways off, I think we're going to paint it and go Flame Red.
Whoa.
It's a little over the top and totally unnecessary, but that's only if it's a ways off, because when Renaud Valuze was painting cars with his brother, they would tape off a car and paint it in 10 minutes, whether it was blue or green or black or white or whatever. They shot it super quick, pushed it out the door. So there's no such thing as a car that was your color, that Corvette color that you had. They were all sorts of different shades of orange. Man,
and were they sealing them before they painted them orange?
No. No, they would push it in. I mean, they weren't scuffing cars. They were just shooting them orange. And out the door that they went. So I'm fully realizing this is overkill, but we went to all this trouble to match the interior and the push bar and all the other stuff they did. So if the paint I have is close, cool, good enough. But if it's like ways off, we got to do the right thing here. So I'm excited for that.
You're there. You might as well, spend another 10 grand.
Sure.
I fully support this decision.
Great.
Still writing this off as advertising?
Yes. Yes.
I was going to say, is it that time of year again where you need another deduction there, Home Slice?
That has nothing to do with it. But yes, it would be great if we got this done before December 31st.
I knew it.
That would really help things out. But it
next year you're going to buy an A-Team van and restore that for advertising.
Well, I just thought I'd just add to the Duke's fleet. I could use a couple police cars, and what would be my next one? I think I want to build another General Lee, but a later season version one. That would be pretty fun.
You're getting greedy, which I fully support.
Before we get to our interview, Mike, it is that time of year. Do you know what time of year it is?
Kwanzaa?
Maybe. Is that a Christmas thing?
I don't know.
Well, here's what I can tell you. Thanksgiving is next week as we record this, but Christmas is just around the corner. And Mike, that means something large and in charge is headed down the chimney. If you know what I mean. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure you know what I mean. That's right. Santa's got a brand new bag. And that bag is MeUndies. Depending on the ones that Santa chooses, you know the ones that I would choose. So we have an all-new Christmas ad for MeUndies. And I found on the internet the Muzak version of Jingle Bells. So I thought we could do the ad to Jingle Bells. Let me try this here. I have listened to this about 3 times. This is a great version. Find it on YouTube. Muzak Jingle Bells. So here's what we got here. MeUndies has their coveted micromodal fabric, 3 times softer than cotton. If you've never felt this fabric, get ready to experience pure bliss in underwear form. You can also get a style that is perfectly suited for you. Men and women can each choose from about 4 different cuts. I know which cuts I like best, and they're all available in classic colors and adventurous prints. Speaking of adventurous prints, Ike, prints. It's the holiday season. MeUndies will be releasing a new print every Tuesday. That means you'll have no excuse not to celebrate the holidays right down to your very core. That's the core I'm talking about, of course. But why stop at MeUndies? This year, MeUndies is launching their holiday prints in lounge pants and onesies as well. Both are made from the same micromodal fabric as their undies. I have the lounge pants in my possession, Mike. They're good. They make everything feel good. Do you understand my words here, Mike?
I understand them. I'm just trying not to picture them.
Oh, I think you'd like it. It's a fan in my household. I can assure you. So here's what we got. MeUndies has a great offer for our listeners for any first-time purchasers. When you purchase MeUndies, we're going to get you 50% off your order and free shipping. That's 50% off the most comfortable undies you'll ever put on and free shipping. So Mike, you get the call to action. Fire away.
Oh, Kibby, you're so right about this. And listeners, to get your 15% off your first pair, free shipping, and a 100% satisfaction guarantee, go to MeUndies.com/KAFS. That's MeUndies.com/KAFS.
It's a nice read right there. Should we close it out with? This is such a good song. It's a good version.
I feel like that should be like the Christmas version of an episode of The Dating Game or something.
Maybe it is. Man. I don't know. I just found it on YouTube. Whoever those people are, dead by now, I'm sure. But full credit to them. Full credit to them. Thus concludes...
They're dead, but winning at life.
Yes, the end of our show of death. Boy, man. Let's get to a happy, fun interview. Does that sound good to you?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody, thanks for listening. If you get the show on iTunes, please leave it a rating there, and support the show on Patreon. And once a month, you'll get a special edition version of the show just for Patreon supporters, where we answer every single one of your questions. And we're going to be changing things up in Patreon starting probably in January. We'll chat about that a little bit more as time moves forward. Mike, I will catch you later. And if I don't talk to you, happy Thanksgiving.
And happy Thanksgiving to you.
See you later. Well, next up is something a little interesting, something we don't normally do on the Kibby and Finnegan show, which is an interview, but that's what we're doing. This is Mark Bradley. Mark's going to explain himself what he is, but in my lingo, he's a movie props expert of sorts. I believe that's what he does for a living. And he is also very much an expert in Cooter's Garage. The set of Cooter's Garage on the Dukes of Hazzard is involved with Ben and Alma Jones on the Cooter's Garage venue in Virginia. He's the one that made Cooter's Garage there look so accurate and real. And he's got just a ton of cool trivia that I thought we would feature here. So, Mark, welcome to the show, and let's dig into this. How you doing?
Hi, Rob. Great to be here. This is fun. Fun being on this side of the Kibby and Trinket show.
Yeah, man. You have sent in info before. I remember when we got your first set of really accurate pictures. Who are you specifically? How do you know this stuff? What do you do for a living?
Sure. Basically, my background is I've been a model builder / prop fabricator in what started out as movie TV industry here in Florida, and it's also kind of evolved back and forth into theme park work because, of course, that's what's here in town. So as productions would come and go, there's a body of talent here in town that would work on various productions, and when that slowed down, there was kind of theme park work to fall back on. Most recently, there's been a lot of buildup in the theme park industry, so a lot of us who used to do movie stuff have found ourselves getting a more steady paycheck doing the theme park stuff. So it's the same kind of work, same kind of fabrication or model work, just for a slightly different client. But it's all the same sort of entertainment industry stuff. So this started out for me as a hobby when I was very young, into models and model railroading, going all the way back to really middle school when I was building Dukes of Hazzard car models. And, you know, like a lot of artists, I suppose, the hobby just evolves into some amount of proficiency, so where you can actually do it for a living, and that's kind of what I fell into.
We met last year in Virginia in Cooter's Garage there at Ben and Alma's place, and
yes,
I was learning as we went there what A, your role was, but B, it's a larger than life Cooter's Garage. How did you come to know Ben and Alma Jones and get a working relationship?
So that's a fascinating story, you know, to me certainly, but it was something I kind of fell into. For years I've been doing this sort of thing, the model and fabrication work, doing that sort of thing for other people. Several years ago, realizing I hadn't done anything for my own hobby, and I just kind of got back into wanting to build some models for myself. It happened to be around the time when they were reissuing all those old Dukes of Hazzard model kits several years ago. So I started picking those up just out of nostalgia. And I thought, well, you know, can't just build the cars. They got to have someplace to sit. Maybe I'll build a little parking lot, or maybe I'll build a little boar's nest or something, and just kind of mulling around in my head what kind of hit those pangs of nostalgia for me. And I kind of landed on the idea of, well, Cooter's Garage would be a perfect place to display all these cool model cars going to rebuild. And so I started pulling the old DVDs out of all 7 seasons of Dukes and, you know, seeing what does Cooter's Garage really look like. I remember it, and fans of the show, you know what it was when you see it, but, you know, how big was it? What did it really look like? And I start writing down the details. So basically, it was a model I built for myself, just as for my own satisfaction, in addition to building stuff for, you know, other people's vision. It was just getting back to my own hobby roots and doing something fun for myself that I could take to a model show or something like that. And so it evolved into a larger project that took several years, of course, in spare time. I wasn't doing it full time. It was just my own little project. So along the way, I amassed a large amount of information on what this Cooter's Garage actually looked like in the show, and what the signs were, what was inside of it, all that sort of thing. So when I got to the point where I had it pretty far along the way, researching along the way of what I saw in the show, and not just the walls and the beams and things like that, but all the props and decor inside the building, as I was trying to recreate that in small scale. So I got to a certain point with all the research, and the basics of the model were built, and I happened to stumble upon one day on the internet an op-ed that had been written by Ben Jones, Cooter himself. And he happened to include at the bottom of the op-ed, which happened to be an op-ed about the Confederate flag controversy. He included at the bottom his email address. So I thought, you know, he spends a lot of time there, this actor. I bet he'd appreciate seeing this. So just on a whim, I sent this email address, a couple pictures saying, you know, just a very basic, hey, loved your role in the show. I thought you might appreciate this. Sent him a couple pictures of the unfinished model. Well, he wrote back very promptly, I think within a couple days, he was very kind and gracious and just kind of gushed on the work I'd done. He even mentioned how it was, even in an unfinished state, it was kind of capturing the feel of the old place. Come to find out, he had more than a casual connection with the set. He, being authentically Southern himself, I'm sure fans have heard the stories about Ben bringing his own touches to not only his character and his wardrobe, but the set itself. He would actually bring things from his home in Georgia to put up on the set. He even went as far as rearranging some of the set decorations when he thought that they didn't quite get it right. So that authenticity of this old Southern shade tree mechanic garage really did come through, and part of that was due to him. So clearly he had an appreciation for the look of the thing. It kind of occurred to me, I kind of picked up on this just observing what was on the set. It had some authenticity to it, and that's kind of what grabbed me about building a model of it. So that evolved into some emails back and forth. About a year and a half later, when the model itself was actually finished, he invited me to come to one of his events, the Hazard Run, that they would do between the two Cooters locations. Every year they were doing a run of replica cars between their Nashville and their Gatlinburg store. They would end in the Gatlinburg store and usually have signings by cast members who were there, and a little Dukes Festival right there in town. So he invited me to come display the model up there. So I did that in 2015, I believe it was. The guest who was signing autographs there that day was Sonny Schroyer, Enos, and they set me up right by him, so I got to see that whole process all day long. Sonny signing autographs and then talking to people about the garage and just getting a lot of great feedback. It was really very fun. It was a great place to be able to display what I had done to fans who had a very specific appreciation for it. So that was a lot of fun. Repeated the same thing the next year in 2016, and at that event, Alma, Ben's wife, came up to the event. Ben had not been able to come to the previous one just because he was having a hard time traveling at that point. And so she showed up. I brought the model again. She took a great interest in it and was all excited about this opportunity that they had just had. They had, long story short, they were about to open up a brand new Cooters at a new location nearby where they live in Virginia. She studied the model and saw the detail in it and asked if I would come kind of help figure out what they might be able to do to bring this sort of thing full size to the location they were opening.
Right.
And so, of course, you can't refuse an offer like that to, work with the man himself. And, of course, Alma is not only persuasive, but she's about one of the sweetest people you could meet. They really both are. They actually flew me up later that month. This was in October of 2016. Took me to the location of the building they had just acquired that they were going to put a new Cooters place in. And it just kind of exploded from there. I became basically, I guess you'd say, the art director for that part of the project. They brought me into this brand new building. It was a fairly new building. It had actually been a custom motorcycle dealership prior to that. The building is fairly large. It was the largest Cooters place that they've ever opened. They've usually been relatively small venues. And so they were very excited about this blank slate that they were going to be able to do all kinds of things in. It had a little diner section. It had a retail area, a museum area, and then at the far end of the building, they had what used to be the motorcycle garage where they actually built custom motorcycles. And so I took a look at this space, kind of brainstormed a bit, brought all my plans and drawings for the garage with me. I kind of hashed out an idea of what you might call a blue sky sort of idea. That means it's kind of a theme park term where if you could do everything you want to do, what would it be? Just the full thing. So I kind of went that route and said, if you, wanted to go all out, here's what you could do. And I didn't really expect them to go for the whole thing. It was pretty broad as far as recreating the entire garage. I thought, well, it's an expensive thing to put that much into part of the space, and they're going to be spending a lot of money to open up this new location anyway. But as it turns out, they loved the ideas and wanted to go for the full thing. So off we were, and we've found some additional talent to actually do a lot of the build-out, and I kind of spent a good part of 2016 traveling back and forth between Virginia and Florida, and then Orlando, by the way, kind of art directing it and sending plans and drawings and information back and forth, and also prop shopping for a lot of the items that went in the garage interior. That was the adventure that we were off on.
It's a mouthful of a story, I'm going to admit that.
Yeah, it is.
The reality of the place is pretty shocking, and here's what I'd like to do. You've sent me a series of notes on the garage set itself, and I think your street cred here is pretty established, that this is a place that you know inside and out, upside and down.
Right.
I think everybody should go visit the Virginia Cooter's place just to check out your work there in person. Let's go through some of these notes here, chunk by chunk.
Sure, absolutely.
And I took all your notes and I kind of broke it out into 5 little questions that I had. So the first one has to do with the Hazard Garage set itself. The fact that this set, which is on the Warner, I guess, Backlot, is unique in that the exterior and the interior are real. And that's what you see on TV show, unlike pretty much every other location where you see the outside of the building and the inside. And those are 2 totally different things. So can you kind of walk through that?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Looking at just the Duke show itself, if you take all the iconic locations that everybody knows, the Duke Farm, the Boar's Nest, the interior of the police station, courthouse, that sort of thing, those are all very typical Hollywood sets where there's an exterior location, in this case on a studio backlot, where the buildings are just facades that can be changed, altered easily. And then when they walk into the interior of the building, what you're actually seeing is a completely separate set built on a sound stage. And that allows them to control the lighting and access to the set where they can remove a wall and get cameras in, that sort of thing. So it really is just a matter of being able to control the filming logistics. In the case of Cooter's Garage, it actually happened to be what's called a practical interior. That means that inside the facade is actually the insides of what you saw on the show. You know, there are various reasons for doing it this way. In this case, the set, as well, Hazard Square, as well as the garage set, that all already existed. Most all of Hazard Square they were facade buildings, but this building actually happened to have an interior to it, and it probably had to do with the logistics of filming for whatever the set was built for. Originally, and most times it appeared in other productions, it was a livery stable, so it has that look of an old wooden building. And, of course, that makes sense even in the universe of the Dukes, where the garage was probably a converted old livery stable. It's a very old, established little town. So in this case, what you saw in Cooter's Garage really was there in the town square, which definitely added some authenticity to it. If you'll notice in the show, you'll see a lot of scenes where they pull the General Lee or another vehicle up to the garage and pull right into the garage, and you can see the full thing. So it looks,
And that makes sense to me that Cooter's Garage really does have to be a garage because cars go in and out from outside to inside. Maybe that explains why there's a loft above his garage where randoms seem to stay when they come in and out of Hazard. Yes.
Or they have to hide somebody.
John Wayne's final movie, The Shootist, you said. 1976 shot there. And you showed me a picture there. And he's in Hooter's Garage, and it's even painted the same or similar. Is that right?
He is. That's the most recent to Duke's example I could find of a movie or TV show with the building being used. That would have been around about 77. And like you say, there's shots of him right in that doorway, almost an identical shot or typical shot you would see in Cooter's Garage looking out toward the courthouse. Except instead of Bo or Luke or Cooter, there's John Wayne standing in the doorway. So it's pretty amazing, and the same red and white paint job on the inside, so you can really tell it is Cooter's Garage, just with different stuff on the walls.
I lucked out. I was out there for a wedding last January, so my wife and I went and took the tour on January 1st, 2017, and the tour guide just asked everybody, is there any specific place you want to go or your favorite TV show? And I was the only person on the whole tram that said The Dukes of Hazzard, but nonetheless, he humored me, and we went there, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. The one place that wasn't there, though, was Cooter's Garage. It's gone now.
That's correct. The garage was just off of the main town square, like literally one building off of it, so where you could see the square from the garage and vice versa. And it appears what has happened is there was a production building just behind those facades that was built sometime in the late 90s, I think. It's either a soundstage or something. I'm not sure what the building on the studio lot is. But it apparently encroached right into that little space a little bit. So it appears they had to tear down Cooter's garage, which was a fairly substantial building since it was not just a front. It took up a good footprint. So it looks like they had to use the property, and then consequently they put up a very shallow other sort of little house facade right in that spot. So unfortunately, that building isn't there anymore.
That's a bummer.
A shame. It is.
That's an old place. I just saw it last. Well, not Cooter's Garage, of course, but that town square was used in the live production of A Christmas Story last Christmas. I remember seeing that and recognizing it. But okay, back to the action here. So during the run of the series, maybe in season 4, there are lots and lots of changes that you had outlined. Can you kind of go through those and why they happened?
A little bit of the background, they, of course, filmed the first few episodes in Georgia, moved the show to Hollywood. And so in that first season of Dukes, there's even a little flux in sort of the stuff you see on the interior of the garage. They have some sort of standard kind of sparse decoration as far as equipment, garage equipment, signage. So it seemed to kind of grow over the next couple seasons is what they added to the garage. They seemed to settle on a batch of props that stayed in there for the rest of the show. And then, of course, there were stories here and there that involved the garage, various plot points. But when we get into season 4, there were several scripts that seemed to call for some very specific things happening in the garage. So the garage kind of becomes even more of a character by season 4. Kind of like the Boar's Nest, becomes a little more iconic location. They had a few scripts, and that's typically how things happen. If there's going to be a change to a set, it typically has to do with the requirement of a script, a story point. You know, a character needs to come in through a back door. Oh, we don't have a back door. Well, put a back door in it. Nobody will notice that there wasn't a back door there before. So that's kind of how they approach it, especially in a TV series. When you're doing a movie, you kind of pre-plan ahead everything that's going to happen so you don't have to change a set as you go. But in a TV series, they only write scripts a few ahead, so you just never know what they're going to have.
Totally.
So that's kind of typical of a TV show. So in season 4, let me look at my notes here. I've been talking with Corndog recently. He's got the production numbers on the different episodes. And from the two of us talking back and forth, it appears that the episodes were rearranged in air dates from how they were filmed. It's kind of hard to tell what came first, but basically it looks like in the beginning of season 4, they started with shows like... Oh,
wasn't the first one's going to be the $1 Million Sheriff?
Yes, that's what it was. Part 1 and 2 of the $1 Million Sheriff. And by that time, you're already seeing some changes. But the really noticeable changes came in season 4, Trouble at Cooter's, when there's a lot of action inside. You see the bad guy going in, trying to tunnel through the wall of Cooter's store next door. The plot involved the stolen furs, and they were stashed in the Blue Bottom store, and the bad guy's trying to tunnel through there. That wall that was there that he's tunneling through with the brick in it didn't exist until season 4. Previous to that, it was a wall that had a few windows in it, kind of like little windows you'd see in a garage door almost. Well, for that one, they put up a false wall and put brick behind it so that he had something to tunnel through. And in fact, the Rue Bottom store next door weren't actually even physically connected to the Cooter's building until season 4. But again, maybe nobody noticed. But they did alter that. They actually extended the building so that it made sense, and it kind of stayed that way for the rest of the show. But they put a false wall in there so they could have that plot point happen. Earlier in season 4, there were some story points where the boys had to sneak into the back door of Cooter's. And as I mentioned before, there wasn't a back door prior to season 4, so they put one in. Again, you would never notice. It took me 30 years to notice, so I guess they were right. Until you sit down and try to pick out the details, you don't see those things.
Well, you have a note here that this is a good example of how TV isn't really done this way anymore. Modern TV and movies is honestly very well arced, and if they change something for a flashback scene, they correct it to go forward. That's not how it works. Season 7, the first episode is Happy Birthday, Generally, which is a flashback, and you had noticed that they clean it up. So it's supposed to be set many years earlier, and it looks nicer then, but it stays looking nice throughout the rest of season 7.
Yeah, it does. I kind of found that shocking. That kind of came in at the tail end of my research there. it was exciting to see how they made a younger version of the garage. Exciting for me anyway, as I've been researching the garage. They said this takes place 8 years earlier, so they actually went to the trouble to kind of spruce up some of the white trim on the outside of the building, and they even took down a lot of the decor on the inside. If you remember the episodes, the characters were wearing different clothes, which was a big deal. You know, they usually have the same costumes on, just to make it look like they were younger. And they did the same thing to the garage by stripping out some of the stuff. So that was great that they went to that trouble, and it really did kind of sell the look of it. But the funny part was they kind of left up the quote-unquote younger version of the building for the rest of that season. And I think maybe the reason was they didn't really feature the garage a whole lot in season 7. It was very minimal. You saw it in long shots in the background in the town square. You saw a couple close-up shots where somebody would pull up and talk to Cooter at the gas pumps. But other than that, you really didn't get to see. Sadly, you really never saw the interior of the garage anymore on the show after Happy Birthday, General Lee. So on one hand, it was neat to see that they really kind of focused on the garage again and didn't just let it go as far as the plot goes. But you never got to see it again.
I'm curious, now that I'm looking, were there other shows shot there that featured the set of Cooter's Garage as something different after the Dukes of Hazzard was done?
I haven't been able to find anything. I'm not saying it's not out there, but I haven't been able to find much. Again, it was off the town square, so just off the town square. So it typically would make it maybe into the background of a shot. The most likely thing would have been a TV series that might have been filmed there, but I haven't been able to find much of anything. So you're talking about sometime between, 85 is when Dukes ended?
Yeah, 85 to 90s.
By the time we get to the reunion movie in, 96? 97 was the reunion movie?
Yeah.
Somewhere in there, the building went away. So I don't know if it was closer to 85, closer to 97. I'd love to be able to talk to some people at the studio and maybe pinpoint that, do a little more deep research on it. But it got torn down there somewhere, but I'm sure it made it into other things. Everything I've seen it in where it was featured was prior to Dukes. Like we said, the Shootist. It was in The Music Man, 1962, which I think it might have been built for. I'm not sure, because I haven't found any earlier reference to it before 62.
Everything I've read about that entire lot is that it was created for The Music Man.
Yes, and quite a bit of that town square, I think, was.
Okay, here's some other interesting things. In the Season 5 episode, Welcome Back, Bo and Luke, you sent me a note. This is probably your favorite ever, right? Because they have a scale model of the town of Hazzard, showing Cooter's Garage, but as a livery stable with that crossed out in the words like service or gas station written over the top of it.
Exactly. The plot point was they're wanting to tear down Cooter's Garage and build a shopping center, I believe. Boss Hogg wanted to build a shopping center, so he has a model, and he pulls out Cooter's Garage and puts the model in with the shopping center he wants to build. Well, they happen to do a full-screen close-up of this little model of Cooter's Garage, and if you go back and look at the episode, you can tell the model's actually made from Xerox copies of the actual set blueprints. And that's a common way of doing study models for movies. In fact, we even do that a lot here at Universal. That's a lot of what we build. It's basically a 3D version of a blueprint. And so in that close-up shot, you can actually see written into the signage on the blueprint where it says J.C. Squire's Livery Stable, which is the name of the character in the stable from The Music Man. That's what it said on the blueprints, which is also what makes me think it was built for that movie. And they just kind of scribbled right over it in black marker service, which is, of course, what the sign says on the Cooter's Garage set. They figured the pixels were big enough back then you wouldn't see what was written underneath it. Of course, now on DVDs we can see it.
Pretty obvious. So
yes, exactly.
I'm just going to read a few things in here so people realize how nerd level you are. So you've
Absolutely.
got in the episode Coltrane versus Duke, there's a close-up of the garage rotary dial phone. The phone number is 322-555-2368. This is the same number for Jim Rockford of the Rockford Files, Jamie Summers in The Bionic Woman, and the Ghostbusters minus the area code.
Yes, it is.
Yes. The Dino Machine scene from season 2 to the end of the series is 2 Dino Machines combined. It's a Clayton Dino with chunks of a Sun Machine. The CB base station on Cooter's desk is a realistic Navajo TRC-43240, which Jeez, man. Okay. The props in the garage are all real equipment. The red gas pumps in the front change quantity and brand. They become the Hogaco gas station brand after season 4.
Yeah.
One other thing that I think you mentioned to me in passing is that at the end of every season of filming, they took all the stuff down in the garage and then redressed it for the following season.
Correct.
Why is that?
A couple reasons. It's a pretty normal thing between seasons because there's usually 2, 3, 4 months, sometimes more. Nowadays, it's even more sometimes. Between production seasons, typically sets are packed up, even interior sets on sound stages are packed up and stored in an organized way so that they can pull it back out the next season. But basically, the real estate in a sound stage might be, is valuable, so they might be using it for something else. Same thing on a backlot. A backlot is an asset to the studio, so they're going to be renting it out to other productions or whatever as much as they can. So in those months between seasons, if we leave all the stuff out there and just lock up the building, number one, we won't be able to rent out the building to another production, or number two, somebody might make off with stuff. So they would just pack it away. And so when they pulled it out, it was they'd redecorate the garage. They probably had pictures of what it used to look like. But, naturally, in a garage, things would move around a bit year to year. So it made sense that stuff got rearranged a little bit. But it was basically the same stuff. Sometimes it would just be on different walls. That's kind of normal production routine.
Well, Mark, we'll have to end it here, but I appreciate your time. I appreciate your level of detail.
I appreciate the place to regurgitate some of it because, once you build a full-size garage, who else am I going to tell? But I hope the fans enjoyed it. You're in the nitty-gritty.
If people want to reach out to you, can they do that? Is there a way to do that?
Sure, absolutely. Probably the easiest way is email. My main email for outside stuff is mbradley, MBRADLEY, the numeral 3, at CFL, as in Central Florida, .rr.com.
Okay. I'll let people reach out to you. They might have model questions for you. Who knows?
That's right. Absolutely. We'll be happy to do it.
Thanks, Mark. I'll catch you later.
All right.